This is Minutia Men with Rick and Dave.
So, look who's back, Mr. World Traveler.
Yeah, Rick,
Yeah.
I got to tell you,
Yeah.
it was great.
Was it?
Yeah, it was great. I think the best part is how we didn't have any disagreements.
Oh, you and your wife?
Everyone was, no, and the kids, yeah, everybody.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, my God. Everybody was happy with everything we did.
Great.
You know, no complaints. The planes were all on time.
That's great.
No travel hiccups at all. And what really surprised me was how inexpensive Copenhagen, Amsterdam, and New York are. I mean, they're really cheap, right?
Actually, no. I think they're pretty expensive.
But I think above all, so the kids, after every evening, we would come home, you know, and we sat around a circle and they all expressed their gratitude in different ways.
Really?
To us. It was really heartwarming.
That's nice.
And everybody was so empathetic to other people.
I know. Dad, I just want to say, I appreciate how hard you worked to earn this money to take us to Europe.
Right.
You know, not everyone gets to do that. I know, like, for instance, your friend Rick doesn't take his kids ever.
Not anymore. Right.
Nope, he does not.
And thank you for this little pancake for $14, you know. Now, you know, the trip was great. I mean, it was, for the most part, everybody had a good time.
Favorite location?
Anne Frank's.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, well.
So, Amsterdam?
Copenhagen is pretty
Copenhagen's
nice.
pretty
beautiful. I think the highlight of the trip, I mean, for me, was the Anne Frank Museum. It was great. We actually bought the premium tickets.
Yeah.
So we were trapped in Amsterdam for 2 days. After, you know,
wow.
The airline. I don't know how they did it with United, but the premium tickets, we were stuck in Amsterdam for 2 days.
Super immersive. That's fantastic.
Now, you know, it was great. One thing I did notice in Europe that there are few rules. Or a lot of Europe doesn't have any rules.
Right.
You know,
especially Amsterdam.
Kids, you know, drank and you know. Well, the thing that. Okay, a couple things. First of all, when we were in Copenhagen, you know, they've got these wonderful canals all over Copenhagen, and you can rent a boat,
right? A
motorboat, you know. And Erin, who looks like she's 14, with, you know, braces, was the one who actually rented it, I think. And they had no problem having this little kid, you know, there you go on this, and there's big boats all over the place. That was
try to stay away from the barges.
But other than that, here you go.
Yeah.
And then, I think it's funny. So I was this might come as a surprise to you. I was a little stuffy. I had a little congestion from COVID, and I needed Sudafed. Okay, in Amsterdam.
You're not going to get that.
You could not get Sudafed in a pharmacy, but down the street I can get heroin, right? You know, or you know, I could get a hooker. I could get hemp and hash and whatever. No Sudafed. Can't get Sudafed.
Well, you know what you also can't get there? Minutia.
Well, you can.
Can you?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's all over the world.
It's everywhere. I guess it is the number one, top 1% in the entire world.
I'm sure there's someone that perhaps one of the women in the red windows listening to our show right now.
Could be.
They didn't look very happy. So it's very possible that they were listening to our show.
Yeah, they could use a little pick-me-up. It's time for that now. It's time for Minutia Men.
The following is a Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie production on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is Minutia Men with Rick and Dave.
So, you know, one last thing. So we were, like I said, our plane from Amsterdam to New York was canceled. Actually, the first one was delayed because of weather, so we switched our plans thinking that we would avoid the hassle. And then the next day, our flight was completely canceled. So we're in Amsterdam, okay, and we want to get to New York, okay. Imagine the risk board, okay. You know, that's not that far, right? No. So the only flight that we were able to get out, and that was the following day, was to fly through San Francisco.
Which is...
So we flew from Amsterdam basically to the North Pole, you know, to San Francisco, and then with a 4-hour delay, we flew to New York. And through this whole thing, I'm thinking, how much ozone layer are we killing? You know,
how close were you to just ending the trip at that point?
Extremely,
because you know, I was following you, and you were sending texts, and I want to say it didn't sound like you were having a great time.
That there was a lot of good. Okay. That that hiccup, the Amsterdam to New York. And you'd think on paper, being stuck 2 days in Amsterdam, like, how... Well, one of it was basically in an airport and shoveling stuff to...
I've been stuck in Amsterdam before. When I came back from South Africa, I got stuck in Amsterdam. But now, I had a great time. But
the kids, I mean...
Didn't have any kids with me. Kind of a key.
We were gone for 15 days.
Yeah, it's a long time.
I ain't got to do that anymore. So,
thank God you've got a business partner who kept everything afloat.
Yeah, because I've never done that before.
Well, whatever. All right, tell your stories.
Hey, and this story really resonates with me. Okay. Secret Service apologizes after breaking into Massachusetts salon to use bathroom before Harris fundraiser. Okay. So the U.S. Secret Service was forced to apologize to a Massachusetts salon owner after using her building's bathroom without permission ahead of a fundraiser for Vice President. The salon owner, Alicia Power, says Secret Service agents put duct tape over her security cameras.
Okay.
Broke into her building and started letting people that were needed to go to the bathroom go to the bathroom. Yeah. Right. So,
when you gotta go, gotta go.
Well, what I'm saying is, I totally me and my proclivity of using public bathrooms, right? Yes. And I actually have a story at the Anne Frank house. That concerns what we're talking about. So I totally sympathize with these security. So we were in the Anne Frank special or the secret annex. Okay, very moving. I strongly recommend.
Yeah, as many Nazi jokes as we make.
Nazis I got to tell you, Nazis were not funny on this trip to Europe.
No, and they weren't funny when I went to Berlin either. Nazis, as it turns out, when you really push, not that funny.
So we're in the secret annex, going through all the rooms, and we had the audio headsets, right? Mm-hmm. So we go into the bathroom, and the narrator starts talking about how each person only had 15 minutes to use the bathroom per day, or in the morning, I should say, because they were hiding, obviously, right? That was the most petrifying thing to me, is that, it's just like, how good. And the minute the narrator said it, I'm like, I got to go to the bathroom. Yeah. It was just this psychological thing. Luckily, the annex, not so big, so I was able to keep it, to hold it until the end. Yeah. But I seriously, we're in the annex, and then even like the next couple of rooms, we're talking about Otto and how they sometimes didn't eat and whatever. I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom. It was.
We should say, for people that are going to Amsterdam, you got to get tickets for
like
that
6 weeks in advance or something, right?
Right. If you don't, you're not getting in.
Well, but so while we're traipsing around Europe, you had mentioned many times that you don't use public bathrooms.
No.
How do you? I used them 7 times a day. I mean, how?
Yeah, it's not easy.
How do you do it?
When you have psychological issues, you just learn to cope.
Okay, you never impressed me in 40 years, basically, until I'm walking around here going, "Now this is impressive."
I do have the bladder the size of Montana. Okay. I'm just able to hold it for a very, very long time.
When I had my colonoscopy, they said I had the largest colon that they've ever seen. It does not help. It doesn't help me.
Well, maybe things can flow through there too easily.
I don't know, but.
Well, I have a story for you that is actually kind of in the same vein here. This is about your next European vacation. You ready for this? El Fanol is the name of it. It's a restored medieval village in the province of Tarragona in Spain's northeastern region of Catalonia. All right. The village was founded in the 14th century, and it has been converted into a community for those who want to experience harmony with the natural environment. There are campsites, hotels, rural homes, restaurants, many activities, but there are also a few pretty strict rules. A couple restored this town in 1998 from the ruins of an abandoned village. So it was just completely abandoned until 98. They left, the last resident was in the 1950s. So it had, kind of been dilapidated. So these people who fixed it up, they've come up with their own rules and they expect to be followed because this town doesn't exist without them, right? Community facilities
They got a
are
lot of
theirs.
German. They got a lot of German in them, right?
Their rules must be followed.
yeah.
And it's the sort of place that you have never been, so I think you should go. And here are a few of their rules. You ready? Rule number 1: weather permitting, full nudity will be the norm. Any piece of clothing for warmth or as protection against exposure to the sun during the hottest time of the day is permitted, but no bathing costumes, no underwear, ever.
So just naked people running around.
Yeah, it's a nudist place. All right. Number 2, and first of all, that kills it for me.
Well, yeah.
But
so while we were in all these hotels, you know how these hotels will have window or mirrors all over the bathroom?
Yeah.
I got a couple of them. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
You're seeing yourself in
I don't want to see that.
dimensions and angles that you have not seen, and you're like,
no.
oh, pasty McFatty ass.
That's why I take a shower with clothing on. Number 2, preachers are not admitted.
Okay.
So no preachers are allowed in this town, which I can get behind.
Yeah, sure.
That sounds like a good rule to me. Number 3, a shower must be taken before entering the swimming pools or mud baths.
Okay.
Now, all right. I think if you're
that's
walking
fair.
around naked all day, you better.
Sure.
I'm fine with that. Number 4, authorization must be requested to take any photographs or film. That makes sense.
Because there's naked
right?
people all over the place, right?
Number 5, pets and farm animals may sniff wherever they choose. They must also be naked. So you can't put a little, little
like a costume on or
bow on your doggy. You can't, put little booties on.
Can't dress them up.
Got to
like,
be naked, and you got to let them sniff wherever they want to sniff because they're going to be able to sniff things they've never sniffed before.
That is interesting. Why would that?
So they're very pro-animal.
Okay.
All right. Here's another one. Only low-consumption light bulbs and receivers may be connected to the electricity supply. Now, at first I was like, what? I don't know, get that. But then I thought about it.
Dim
lighting,
right?
yeah, because you're naked and you look terrible.
Right. Yeah, right. That's
so you look a little bit better.
And that's the thing with these hotel rooms. They got those fluorescent spotlights on you.
Right.
It's just like, ugh.
And by the way, people who are thinking, oh, nudist colony, this would be great to see all these naked people.
Yeah.
You don't want to see it.
No.
You don't want to see it. All right, there's more. There's no hunting. No flowers may be picked. No fires may be lit.
Okay.
I guess you don't want like a spark coming in,
And hitting Mr. Happy.
Yeah, right, exactly. Any accident, it says, and this is right here on the list, any accident, donkey, bicycle, etc., is covered by the village's insurance policy. Oh, that's pretty nice.
So you could have been riding when you had your bike trip.
If
and
I
you
was
broke
there
your arm,
instead.
I mean, yeah, you would have been.
Yeah, I might have broken a lot of other things too because I
would have been covered.
Yeah,
it'd be fine.
The only currency accepted in village stores is their own currency, the schmeckel.
Okay, you made that up. There's no currency named the schmeckel.
That's true. I made that up. But you do have to buy the currency in that town.
Okay.
And it's like they don't follow any rules like income tax rules or anything like this. They're kind of like rebels, right? The government's constantly
Naked
after
rebels.
them. Yeah, naked rebels. And then the last thing.
Wouldn't the currency be called schwanz?
Well, schmeckel's another word for that. It's, I thought schwanz was too obvious. I actually spent quite a bit of time. I want to tell you how many words I went through before I got to schmeckel.
Yeah, schwanz, schmeckel, stuppy, schlumpy.
A lot of them with K's, sounding because that's a funny, but schmeckel is what I said.
It's not bad.
And then the last rule, dangling genitalia is encouraged. Dangling genitalia is encouraged, but dangling participles are an abomination.
Okay.
Please make sure your modifying participle phrases are right beside the noun you intend to modify.
Okay, but it's
hardcore
grammar.
The grammar police.
It's the grammar Nazis.
The grammar police are even in naked villages, so you can't escape them.
Dangling. Yeah, I'm not going to. Where is this card?
It is called El Fanoll.
Yeah.
Fonoll. If anybody goes, please let us know.
Yeah, but you don't have to take pictures.
Yeah,
obviously.
Please don't.
We got a review on Apple Podcasts just actually a couple of weeks ago. I liked this one a couple of weeks ago. Just Bobby B
Bobby B.
Via
Bobby.
Love the celebrity stories and quick-witted banter. Hosts have great chemistry.
Okay.
Which I actually got a C in chemistry. What'd you get in chemistry?
Yeah, I got a C in chemistry, too. That was my worst class, I think. That and statistics. All right, it's time for another feature.
Time now for Studio Walls.
And the words of the prophets were written on the studio walls. Weekend
So this is the part of the show where we dip into the Rick and Dave archives, which are vast. We have so many things that we can choose from that kind of tie into what's going on this week in history. Mm-hmm. And actually, 25 years ago this week was a pretty eventful week.
All right, so 25 years, that puts us in 99.
1999.
So August of 1999.
August 16th, 1999, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire debuted, which turned Regis Philbin into the biggest star in America for about a year or two. Do you remember how huge that was?
Yeah. With the sound effects.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so huge that I watched it all the time with my family, and little Tommy Kempfer became a huge fan of the show, and he was 4 years old at the time, and I did this little bit with him, and we played it on Landecker Show. There it is.
Tommy, you're going for the $1 million question. You pretty excited?
I'm going to Disney World.
Not yet. You've got to win first. Okay, you ready? Tell me, which one of these songs was not on the Beatles' Rubber Soul? A, Michelle. B, Hard Day's Night. C, Drive My Car. Or D, Norwegian Wood. One of those songs was not on Rubber Soul. Which one?
Hard night.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, final answer.
You're right!
Wow.
For $1 million! Tommy Kemper, what are you going to do with that money?
I'm going to go to Disney World.
So he actually knew that answer.
He
right?
actually knew that answer. He knew the full tracks of every Beatles song when he was like 3-4 years old. Wow. It was amazing. Right. But so when I say we go back in time, 25 years ago, that wasn't the only thing that was going on.
Okay.
The next day, so Who Wants to Be a Millionaire debuts on August 16th. August 17th, President Clinton holds a press conference and apologizes to the entire country for, the whole Monica Lewinsky thing. And because it happened in the 1990s, Dave.
Gee, I wonder if there's a parody song that you may have written.
There is. I'll play a little bit of it. It's called He's the President.
On technicalities, we all watched his TV song and dance. What's the matter with you, Clinton? Can't you keep it in your pants? You're the president, yeah, he's the president, in charge of foreign and domestic affairs. Before you get the feathers and before you get the tar, JFK did it and so did FDR. Harding had a love child, Bill never went that far. He just rented the Oval Office like the backseat of a car, 'cause he's the president. Yeah, he's the president, in charge of foreign and domestic affairs. Well, those ladies all look so fine, and Bill wondered all the time, with women 18 to 69. But when it came to Janet Reno, that's where Clinton drew the line. No star may be hated, and the same with Linda Tripp. Bill wouldn't have these problems if he just kept it zipped. Now the only thing that'll be stiff is Bill's upper lip. Oh, Hillary will pull a bob, but she won't hesitate to snip. The president, yeah, he's the president, in charge of foreign and domestic affairs. Boys, take me home!
Yeah, there we go.
Can you imagine if you were doing this show now?
Oh, my God.
I mean, it would be...
So, I want some credit for this because, I was a supporter of Clinton.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter because I could still write comedy about it. You can't lose your sense of humor to the point where you can't make fun of it.
Well, do you remember how that was like we were outraged. The whole country was outraged. Oh my God, I tell you, it's
kind
so
of cute.
It's so quaint right now, right?
And the other thing is, he was apologizing.
Yeah.
Remember apologies?
Yeah.
That used to be a thing.
Yeah. Now it's so far. All
right.
That was a really. I had not remembered how good that song was.
Well, thank you.
Hey, speaking of traveling, and now that I got the bug.
Yeah.
It's
more.
Oh my God.
More.
Taliban are working to woo tourists to Afghanistan.
Okay.
Hey, if they have lots of bathrooms, I'm there. That needs to be on the top.
Do I feel like at some point during this story, the Taliban is going to be hiring a David Stern?
Do you want me just to cut to this slogan?
You just cut right to it.
Okay. So fine. Basically, the Taliban, they got the control. They want tourism, blah, blah, blah. I got a quote here. Amir al-Hardir, the minister who is spearheading the initiative, doesn't understand why foreigners are leery. I don't understand why people don't flock to our beautiful country. Women are now free to visit many of our attractions.
Many of them.
that was the thing. Okay, as you know, I'm a marketing guy, right? And I think they may need some slogans, right?
Sorry, I cut right to it there.
You know what?
Yeah.
You're pigeonholing here.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a couple. How about Afghanistan? Be head of the class.
Oh, not bad.
Okay. Afghanistan, where the views are captivating and the journalists decapitated. Okay.
I like that one a lot.
Okay, but I think this is my best one. All right. Ready? Sweet home Taliban.
Not bad.
Okay, so
you're just gonna have to acquire that music from Leonard Skinner,
right.
but
So you like the where the views are captivating and the journalists decapitated?
That's my favorite.
Really, Sweet Home Taliban. That was
okay. It's a jingle. Okay. Yeah, it's a jingle. It's not really a whole campaign,
Okay. You take me for granted. You're taking my content for granted.
I kind of am. All right, I have a story. This is a scientific story.
Do you think next week we're going to do one of your parody songs about something that happened in the 90s?
Hey, you just did one. You just did one right there in front of me. I have a story that is from Live Science magazine, which is not a magazine that
you've ever heard of before,
no.
probably.
And this is about a species called pearlfish. Have you ever heard of pearlfish?
No.
Okay.
Kind of sounds like a band name, though.
It does, ladies and gentlemen. Pearlfish. They're small eel-like creatures, right? They don't have any scales, and they have no way of protecting themselves. So instead, they have to find...
So we're basically us in 8th grade.
Yeah, right. It's like us now. They have to find a safe hideaway. Okay, that in order to survive. But rather than sheltering in like seagrass meadow or hiding in the crevices of a rock or in coral reefs or something, they've chosen an unusual refuge. Sea cucumbers' anuses. Right?
Their butts.
Their butts. The rear end of a sea cucumber may seem like an undesirable real estate, but for pearlfish, it does the trick, according to the Smithsonian Ocean website. Sea cucumbers breathe through their butts, giving pearlfish an easy opportunity to sneak in. Like, first, the pearlfish sniffs out its host. Where's the butt?
Yeah, right. Ooh, that's a nice butt.
Oh, there's a butt. And then they just have to wait for the cucumber to open their mouth and breathe, and then they swim inside. And they do this every time they need to re-enter their home, which they occasionally have to leave to find food.
Okay.
Now, even the sea cucumber's Suvarian tubules,
another great name for a band,
everyone knows, are special sticky threads that sea cucumbers eject from their bums in self-defense.
Okay.
Those don't affect the pearlfish at all. So pearlfish are like
whatever.
Suvarian tubules, big whoop. Even cucumber species with anal teeth, they have anal teeth. Ooh. Even those do nothing to the pesky butt dwellers, the pearlfish. They can just get in there. Some species can live inside sea cucumbers without doing any harm, which is, they're just visiting.
They're
like
Airbnb.
Like your mother-in-law's there.
You're running an Airbnb for a couple of days.
They live in symbiosis, and neither host nor invader is harmed. But there are others that are parasitic.
Okay. Those are the bad the bad Airbnb reviews then.
They eat the sea cucumber's gonads.
Oh.
Yeah.
that ain't good.
It doesn't kill the host, but it can disturb its reproduction.
Yeah, okay. Piss them off, too, I would imagine.
Honey, have you seen my gonads? Oh, no. So, pearlfish.
Truthfully, when have you seen yours?
Well, I'm just thinking, next time you're swimming, like, you know, after you do these, now that you're going on vacations everywhere, what if you go to, like, Australia and you're
Barrier
swimming?
Reef.
Yeah, right. You know, keep an eye out for the pearlfish is all I'm saying. You know, you might want to not use as many restrooms.
I would imagine that pearlfish would love Amsterdam.
Yes,
I mean, there's a lot of things you could be doing there.
That's true, especially the anal teeth. All right, it's time for another feature.
A random name pulled out of Rurik's bowl of brushes with celebrities. Mixture, collection, selection, assemblage, medley, assortment, variety. Time now for Celebrity Potpourri with Rick and Dave.
I just wanted to say anal teeth. And that's really the reason I brought that story in. Celebrity Potpourri. This is a letter here, an email from Brett, B-R-E-T-T.
Okay.
Rick, did you see the story that Aerosmith will never perform again because Steven Tyler...
He's got voice issues, right?
I'm reading an email here.
Wow.
You know, Brett would like to get a word in.
Okay, good point. I haven't done this for 2 weeks. I'm still, you know, I've been trying to get an for the entire trip. I've been trying to speak. My family wouldn't let me, so
yeah, it's okay to finish my sentences.
Okay.
It's not okay
right.
to finish Brett's sentences.
All right.
Okay. Rick, did you see the story that Aerosmith will never perform again because Steven Tyler wrecked his vocal cords? I remember hearing Aerosmith on Stephen Gary shows back in the day. Were you part of the show that day?
Okay.
All right. Now you can.
No, I didn't.
Join
Forget
back
it. Forget it now. I'm still stinging for the fact that you pigeonholed me into the tourism slogans.
I can see him coming from 100 miles away.
Neon light with the big arrows. You've cracked the code. That's good.
Yes, I was there the day that Aerosmith came out. I'll tell you how we got him on. They were on Bobby Scafish's show. And Bobby Scafish's show on the Loop FM
was like right down the hall.
Right down the hall. I saw Steven Tyler and Joe Perry in that studio. And so what did I do? I just wandered over there and just waited for them to come out. And I said, all right, next interview's this way.
Oh, so
I just brought them into the studio.
And they had no clue.
They're like, oh, okay.
Right.
That's what they do when they're on the...
Sure.
And it was a great interview with Stephen Gary. Steven Tyler was wearing... like lace on his hands.
Okay. What year was this?
1990, something like that.
Okay.
And I asked him where he got it because it looked really weird. He goes, this is my wife's, nylons, and I just cut them open and put them on my arms. Okay. That's really all I remember from that day, other than stealing him as a guest. The other thing is, I saw them live in concert once.
Yeah, it was for the 23-second one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You want to tell the story?
Yeah. You know what? I am going to take your thought.
There you go.
So was it Peoria?
Yeah, I think it was Springfield.
Okay, so we go. Did you drive the Duster there?
I think it was the station wagon.
Okay. Yeah. Rick was so cool at college. He had the blue station wagon. So we loaded up the station wagon and we went to Springfield.
Yep.
Right. And we parked the car, I think.
Yep.
Lot C, I believe it was.
Okay.
And then we go in there and we get our seats. Probably good radio seats, probably, right? I don't remember where they were. They come out, 42 seconds into the first song?
Which was Back in the Saddle.
Back in the Saddle.
Back in the saddle again.
And Steven Tyler collapses.
Fell off the stage.
And then he tries to, if I remember correctly, he tried to come back, right?
Yeah, they got him back up on the stage. Right. And then, because he was obviously
hammered,
loaded.
Yeah.
And his bandmates got so pissed off.
They started punching him in the stomach.
Oh, yeah. They got into a fist fight on stage. And then lights down, show over.
Yep, right. And then as we were leaving the stadium or whatever, the theater, people were so mad they were like ripping. I seem to remember like people were ripping like posters off the walls and stuff. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just kind of.
And I was thinking to myself,
this is far better than any Aerosmith show would have ever. It's a story that we'll tell.
As somebody who saw them in, Iowa City, what that show was like. They've got no stories.
Yeah, right.
We got the story.
Yeah. It was.
All right, so speaking of stories, if you're a fan of the Mooch, and who is not a fan of the Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci is right now our current guest. If you check out Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
Great interview.
Great. You know, I got a couple of clips that I want to play. These are not from this current interview, but it gives you an idea of what kind of a show
you're not seeing the CNN. You're not going to be hearing the CNN Mooch.
Here's one clip.
You know, one time I'm on the Bill Maher show. I was defending him. Stormy Daniels was on the show with me. And by the way, you know, that's another issue. Trump has probably heard the following 4 words, okay, that no man can recover from. You want to hear the 4 words?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. Is it in yet? Those 4 words no man can recover from, okay? And after listening to Stormy, I'm sure that's another problem that this guy's living with, you know.
So we should say in our new interview, now this will be our 3rd interview of the Mooch. He explains what it was that made him turn, which he hadn't really done in the other ones. But here's another little thing, another little clip from a previous Mooch interview.
For mankind, the biggest tragedy is I don't think Trump has been laid in 3 years.
Yeah,
and you can't get access. You can't get access to Pornhub in the White House. They got those sites blocked.
Well, you would know.
This is I would know, right? But I think this is a guy, okay, that has literally probably not had a sexual encounter, you know, in 3 years, which I think is another big problem for the civilization. You know what I mean? Someone should let him get laid at least. You know what I mean?
Why Melania looks so warm next to him?
So and there it is. That's the Mooch.
Well, you know, remember the first time that we had him on, he was still
defending him.
He was still defending him. And then we had him on 4 weeks later when he was.
He's a great interview.
He's a really good guy.
He is. And he and Dave, the
buddies,
two of you,
buddies, total buddies,
emails with each other, which is, I think, great. All right, we have people to thank for this show. First of all, let me thank you for coming back and doing a show.
Yeah.
I know what people are thinking. They're thinking, well, you only missed 1 week. How is it possible if Dave was gone for 2 weeks?
We cut 2 shows on one day.
That's right. I'd like to see somebody else pull that off.
Well, don't they do it for like game shows?
Yeah, fine. Family Feud, big whoop, you know.
Yeah, we did 2 there. That was worse than the jet lag that I had. It was the effort that we put for that one day.
Yeah, it's a lot of dancing.
Yeah.
All right, so we have to thank our executive producer, Tony Lasano, with Opie Shows. We need to thank Ed Silla, Radio Misfits. Great Talk Radio isn't dead. It's just moved to a better place. RadioMisfits.com. And
this
now,
was a long show. How long was the show?
Well, it's not that long. But I want to know, are we guaranteed to do a show again next week? I think you're going to...
Is it guarantee? I mean, things can happen.
I would like a guarantee. I would like a guarantee from you that you're going to show up and we're going to do a show next week.
How can I forecast the congestion I might have or some sort of...
And we'll be back
I'm still
again.
dizzy from COVID, by the way.
With
and the family, really empathetic while I'm walking a little slower all through Europe. They just, no, that's okay, Dad. Take your time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, take your time, Dad. How are you doing, Dad? Are you feeling okay, Dad? Do you need a chair, Dad? All of that was happening. Michelle was really... I think at one point she's like, come on. Yeah, this should happen in 20 years, not now. And
I get that a lot. Yeah, you know, my knee really hurts. Well, I guess because you're in terrible shape.
Yeah, right.
Can't I just say my knee hurts?
No, you're right.
Is there a rule that I have to be blamed for all of my own maladies?
Well, how did you... Oh, the show's not over, by the way.
Yeah.
This is another thing that I was thinking. There was 2 things that really impressed me in the European vacation. I mean, how many times have you been to Europe?
I lived there.
Well, I know, but
probably 10, 15 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
And every time you go, you walk probably 15 steps a day, right? I mean,
15,000 steps
or 15,000 steps a day. How did you do that with your gout and your elephantitis? And
I'm like a warrior. I am.
Well, that's the name. That's your last.
That's
name.
What Kemper means.
But I'm like, good God, how? Well, now that you're 61, did we miss your birthday?
Yeah, we did miss my birthday.
Well, happy birthday.
Well, thank you. And we'll be back again next week with another episode of
Minutia Men.
We think.
Yeah.
The preceding was a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Find our other great shows on iTunes. Stitcher Radio. And at RadioMisfits.com. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?